All right, I'm absolutely thrilled to have a returning guest, a loved member of the broader final word community, but also the cricket media as well. A man who has shot over 300 test matches going back to 1988. A man who is, he's widely regarded as the best cricket photographer in the world, one of the best to ever do it. He's been on the show before talking about his wonderful book in 2021, The Colours of Cricket. He rejoins us today to talk about an outstanding project that relates to the 2005 Ashes. It's the Dudley platypus of social media. It's the man formerly of Australia, now for many years of the UK. It's Philip Brown. G'day, Browny. How are you?
Hello. What a pleasure to see you on a screen again and have a chance to chat to you.
I think the last time we did this was in my kitchen, possibly, when we did the book a few years ago. But I thought it was the right time to catch up with you, not only because of this project that's gone live this week and been serialised in the Telegraph, but also the wider work you've done this year, which has been to some great acclaim across that brilliant England-India Test series that you described as the one of the best you've ever covered. So maybe we should start with 2005, though, Brownie. So this was an exercise in taking headshots of all 12 England men who played in that series. And it obviously was inspired by work that you did to mark the 40 years of the 1981 Headingley Test. So maybe if you can start there and draw a link between that project from a few years ago and what you've done over the last couple of months.
Sure. Well, I was heavily involved in the 2005 Ashes, and I look back on those days very fondly indeed, as as a privilege to be able to cover such a iconic series, and I love that. And I got a fantastic memory for what day things happened. Every Test match there was something happening picture-wise. Obviously we had Flintoff being an absolute star in it, Vaughan being an absolute star in it. So I look back really fondly on 2005. And when I realised that the 20th anniversary was coming up, I thought it'd be really cool to attempt to get portraits of the players that played for England in that series. And one of the great things about that is there were only 12 of them who played in that series. So we had 11 players played in the first 4 tests, and then unfortunately Simon Jones got injured and Paul Collingwood came in. Good news for Collingwood, of course, but not great news for Simon Jones. But I look back fondly on that, and as you say, I did do a similar project in 2021, marking 40 years since the 1981 Ashes series. So that was going around the country and convincing Jeff Boycott and Ian Botham and Mike Brearley and Mike Hendrick to pose for me. And it was kind of during COVID time, so it was quite a strange thing to undertake. But I tried to make all the former players at ease, saying, I won't be coming into your house. I'll just put a piece of white card on your back wall or something. I'll set up a light. If you can roll out some power to me, you sit on a stool and we do it that way. So that kind of worked. There were only 17 players surviving during that project out of the 20. Sadly, 3 had passed away. And then really sadly, Mike Hendrick passed away soon after I took his photo, and he was the loveliest guy I've ever met. Yeah, really that was quite sad. But I'd done that project, and I thought it'd be nice to do it again this year, as you say, marking the 20th anniversary of the 2005 Ashes. And I kind of mentioned it to a couple of players who were around the team, like Marcus Trescothick, Paul Collingwood. I said, I might be tapping you on the shoulder and saying, can we do a portrait? That was when we were in New Zealand the end of last year. And it got to May, and I'd sent out emails and got kind of a few positive responses of, oh, yeah, we're happy to do that. And I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to have to start. And I think probably the more difficult guys to get might be KP, Andrew Flintoff. So Andrew's obviously coaching the Lions, and they had a game against India A down at Canterbury, and I thought, do you know what? I'll just put all the gear in the car that I need and head to Canterbury and see if we can start this off, and that's how it started. I think it was May the 28th, and I just drove down to Canterbury, waved at Andrew and said, "Did you get that email about the portraits?" And he went, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, is it possible?" And he went, "Well, yeah. Well, after training," I went, "Perfect." After training, so I set my stuff up, and it was a good training session to be at because Rocky Flintoff was there. So I thought, well, while I'm waiting, I can try and get a picture of Rocky Flintoff and his dad, which worked out nicely as well. They didn't come together very often, but just once that day, Rocky went towards the boundary, picked up a ball, and walked back towards Andrew. So I was ready to go, I need about 17 pictures of this moment. And so I'd set the gear up, and lo and behold, plug in the lights. I had a nice light with an umbrella on it. I had the white card background. I carry my own stool around the country, so they're always at the same height. It sounds mad, and that stool should be worth something because it's had some very famous cricket arses sit on it, including Boycott Botham, Flintoff. I mean, if only I'd had the nous to get them to sign it as they sat on it. Yeah, that would have been a money spinner. Anyway, like I say, it's plugged in the light, thought we'll just test the light. And the first picture I took before Andrews turned up, it's gone poof, and a cloud of well, something we don't want came out of the light. So that's broken. Luckily, I remembered there was this light that was also in the car. One of these, I can't remember what we call it, but the LED light, a panel light, where you just turn up the light source to whatever you want, so you could, and that turned out to be a blessing in disguise because you could just balance it with the natural light for the whole series of them. So it was a good thing that the first light went poof and didn't work anymore.
So did that mean that you would have used, because of that was your first shoot, you were duty bound to keep using the same light for the remainder of the pictures, presumably?
Yeah, and this is so much easier. You literally plug it in, and a friend gave me a battery source for it, and just turn it to the desired level. It's the easiest thing in the world. I shouldn't make it sound too easy. Everyone will be out next week taking portraits. But, so got Andrew to sit down, and I also say, can you put on this black T-shirt? So I bought 10 black T-shirts. I won't name the store Primark. Oh, whoops, I've named the store Primark. So they cost me £25 for 10 T-shirts. So I have to pick the size. So I go, why don't you try this size on? But I just wanted them all to look the same. Just have a black T-shirt that didn't distract from the picture. So all you look at is their face.
And it is interesting, but I think part of the charm, sorry to cut you off, but just to kind of dig into that, part of the charm of the series is how different each of them look. And I don't mean of course, their faces and the way they are looks different, but even, I know you've done them the same, but the light appears different on the face. Where the T-shirt sits on their chest appears different. I think it's part of the, it's yes, there is a uniformity to it, but in each different portrait here, you've got something different about the player. Some are smiling, some are not. Steve Harmison's the very opposite of smiling. I'm not sure how you maybe go into that, how you decided to shoot each of them, how you decided to select what pose they had on their face. Like that nitty gritty, to me, with what you got here in the final project, is clearly the special sauce of the whole thing.
Well, thanks for mentioning the T-shirts. And if I could go back again, I would have someone helping me going, no, that T-shirt's not sitting right. And that's, because like you say, some you've got massive neck, some they're up here, and that's quite annoying to me. I think it's the opposite. So you look at someone like, let's use Simon Jones, right, as the example here. I might try and float a couple of these in if you're watching on YouTube, and the others who are listening to the program on the pod, we'll link it through on the show notes. But he's got quite a strong chest still, right, and strong shoulders, and naturally it sits lower on his neck and onto his throat, really. And others, it's far higher up, like Steve Harmison I mentioned before. It's right up towards his chin. I think that actually says more about their body types and the way they've evolved over 20 years, some of whom have remained really in great nick, and those who look like they may not have ever played professional sport. Yeah, like I say, it's just annoying to me that when it comes to matching them up. But what you said about the light sources are different. Sure, they were, because all 12 were taken on different days in different places. So I had to, when I turn up somewhere, I try and find a shady spot, but which had kind of sun coming into it. I mean, the best ones were for light. Flintoff, I was really happy with the first
Mm.
one. Ashley Giles was early. I think he was the second one I did. Again, great. But some of them are better than others. Like the Hoggard one, we shot Matthew at Hoggy's Grill in Leicestershire, where he has his successful business of showing people how to make burgers, cook meat properly. So I did force myself on Matthew a little bit by saying I'm going to be there Saturday and I'm going to be taking a picture of you. But there's something about the light. I don't know if it was bouncing off barbecues or what it was. But if I look at that one, I'm not very happy with the light in that one. But it's 12 different days. It's 12. Some were brilliantly sunny, some were not so sunny. So it's a tricky thing to try and have them all match unless you're doing it in a studio. And I wasn't. I wanted to use natural light and balance it with this LED light.
Well, let's just go into a couple of the individuals who you've shot here.
You
You want to jump in with one more?
Jones.
Simon Jones.
Well, you mentioned Simon Jones, and I want to say Simon Jones turned out, luckily for me, he said, I rang him up. I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "Wales." He said, "But I am coming to Lords on might have been the 25th of June. And I went, "That'd be brilliant." So I rang Lords and said, "Can I bring my car in? I've got a lot of equipment and everything." Blah blah blah. Simon Jones said, he looks super. He doesn't look like what must he be? I'm guessing like 46 or something. But he looks fantastic, and that's the thing is if you're taking a portrait of someone who looks great, you don't have to do much at all. You just say, "Look this way, look at the camera, click, it's done." And I'm really happy with the Simon Jones picture. Lovely, lovely guy. And another thing I did. Sorry, we'll get back to your question. I'm taking over here.
Totally.
The other thing I did was I asked all of them, "What's your favourite moment from the 2005 Ashes?" So that, I was just interested probably to start with, but then that became a thing. And I'd normally forget. So like Ashley Giles, I've said, "Thanks for sitting. See you later. Lovely to see." He's wandered off. And 2 minutes later, I've rung him and said, "Yeah, I forgot to say, what's your favourite moment from the 2005 Ashes?" So I started to sometimes video these if I remembered, just for my memory, just so I remembered what they said. But Simon Jones, super attractive man, and probably someone asked me online what was my favourite memory from the 2005 Ashes, and it's a bit of a weird one, but it was probably being in a bar in Nottingham, opposite, All Bar One in Nottingham, it's in a big church.
Yep.
Over the road from there was a pub, and I'm sure this was '05. And I remember being in there. Simon Jones was in there, just standing in kind of the centre of the pub, not doing anything, just standing. And I've never seen anything like it. Girls were just passing him, like walking past him, like sharks in the water, just trying to be seen by him. I've never seen it before. I've never seen it since. Such an attractive man. And he was probably in a relationship at the time. He did nothing wrong. But I've never seen that before. Just girls just showing themselves, passing, walking right in front of it. That's my favourite memory from the '05 Ashes.
Love it. Whereas most people will probably cite, Simon Jones taking Michael Clark's off stump out of the ground. You got a different type of perspective.
Yeah, which was his favourite moment. But I did say, like, "What's your favourite moment?" And he went, "I don't know. I was so stressed during the whole thing," which I found interesting. But yeah, then he did come up with the Michael Clark moment, which is, I mean, we see that on YouTube, and you just hear the clunk of the stump as it hits the floor. But I loved '05. I don't know if that's come across. Being there from there was a massive hype before it of Shane Warne's going to be playing, and he was playing for Hampshire at Southgate beforehand. Pretty sure Philip Hughes was playing in that same match, and I remember saying to a well-known literary agent who we both know, "What about a book on these '05 Ashes?" "Well, I'm not sure. We're not sure how England are going to do." Fast forward 12 weeks, I had so many book projects coming in, and I was doing this one for Mainstream, this one for the Telegraph, Mitchell Beasley, and I think there was another one. And it was, why didn't people listen to me 4 months ago? We could have, instead of me, like the last day of the Ashes here, I had to shoot the end of it, celebrations and things, jump in my car, go straight to St Albans, where there was a guy who was editing a book, and kind of give him all the images from that day. I think I got a Pizza Express pizza on the way, just, bring up, got it, and finished up arriving at his house wearing a pizza that had fallen all over me. And then the next morning was an open top bus tour, that started at Mansion House, finished in Trafalgar Square that I was on. So I didn't have any sleep. I think I changed out of my pizza gear for the bus tour, but I was in the front row of the bus with Rachel Flintoff was basically sitting on top of me. It was so crowded up there, but how lucky am I to have that as a job where I'm on an open top bus. The covered in pizza isn't that lucky. That was just an accident, but it was a great time, and I remember it so fondly.
Priceless, all part of the charm as well with the pizza. Just going through, and you're right about the build up to '05 being as pronounced as it was, and the Hampshire connection there with Vaughan and Peterson. Maybe if you can give me an insight into what it's like shooting someone like Kevin Peterson. Like, how long did it take? How much editorial control did someone like Peterson have over the image you selected? Indeed, all of them. Did you give them a chance to kind of veto what you were doing? Were you taking all sorts of different types of photographs of them before zeroing in on the pose that you wanted? Like, give us use Peterson as the example of a player.
With this latest project, you mean?
Yeah. I'm just talking about with when you're
Right,
going back and seeing them 20 years on. That
right.
like, and just use Peterson for me as the example because I'm sure it was similar for all of
Okay,
them. Like, how long did it
okay,
take to go through the process? What sort of did you ask them to smile? Did you ask them to act naturally? Did you ask them for something else? How many frames were you typically taking? And then I guess the post production. Were you going to someone like KP, like his 4 or 5 options or something like that? Like, what was it like when you're back and forthing with your subjects?
They didn't have any kind of control over the image, and once I once I photographed Andrew Flintoff, the first one, I thought I just want them looking straight on, as straight as I can get them. The white background. I don't want. We don't have to bother with any other poses. And how I tried to sell it was, it'll take 3 minutes. Once I'm set up, you sit on a stool, you
Mm.
look at me, it'll take 3 minutes. And
All right.
that is, there were no other poses. I did say try a smile, don't smile now. That was probably the only directive. And I probably had control over which one was. I mean, some people smile and all of a sudden there's wrinkles everywhere over their face. And I think, well, I don't think that's as. Like Simon Jones, for example, beautiful man, I'm going to say. When he smiled, didn't look as good to me. So I had control. I didn't have to say, like, okay, you want to know about KP?
Mm.
I've always got on really well with KP from from when he arrived in the team. I shot him sitting in a director's chair, I think the day before the '05 Ashes, for I think N Power had organised a shoot, and I said, "Yeah, I can do that." Click, and then something happened, and they said, "Well, how much?" We didn't talk about how much you'd charge or something, and I said, "Well, no." I came up with a figure, and they said, "Oh, because it's going in the paper tomorrow. Actually, we should have said." And I went, "Oh, well, hang on a minute. I didn't mean that much." And I bumped my price up because it was definitely going in. But yeah, so I had a relationship with KP before he even made that Ashes squad, and luckily we've never fallen out, which would be easy to, but we've had, 20 years now, and we've not fallen out ever. So I said to KP, I'm doing this project. I'd like to do it, and finished up speak. And he said, just come to my house.
All
Well,
right.
about 12:30 on whatever day of the week it was, and it wasn't hard to get to. I mean, he lives near a beautiful golf course, and found my way there. And he was just finishing up, seeing some other people. Drove in, he said, "Can I get you?" And I said, "No, no, no. I just need some power." So I put up my white background, taped it to a wall out the front of his house, got the power. He said, "Unplug the golf buggy. You can, because that should be fully charged now." A little bit of an insight into KP as well. So I did that and powered up the thing. Put the stool there. I said, "Can you pop on this black T-shirt?" Not a problem. He did that. He looked at me, and that again, likewise, there was a lot bouncing around, and it's not in my top 4 from this series, but it was adequate, and he looked great. And I remember showing him. I said, "That's what we've got," and he said, "I think I look okay." And I said, "Yeah, you look great," and we agreed that he looked great, and that was it. That was it. And then I packed up all the stuff. I packed up the white cardboard. I packed it in, and I probably said, "You keep the t-shirt if you want to, Kevin. Like, we don't need that back." And yeah, that was it. And easy. And that was one of the easy ones. Turn up, do it. And no, he didn't have right of approval or anything. It wasn't a thing
Okay.
like that. I think it's because of trust. And I think because I know all these players, that's the lovely thing, that they, one, that they did it for me, and two, that they trust me not to stitch them up. And I think that's a really important thing of working in cricket, is that people should know that I'm not there to stitch them up. I'm there as a cheerleader for cricket. I'm trying to do, a really positive thing for cricket because I love the game and I love the people.
Were there any that were, for whatever reason, just difficult, like found maybe the perception of themselves to be quite important, maybe those who are less in the public eye, or indeed those who are very in the public eye who have a greater understanding of what their public perception is? Was there any of that kind of experience through the 12 shootings?
No, none at all. They were all really cooperative. They were all great experiences.
Yep.
Geraint Jones, who I hadn't seen for years and years, he was helpful because he said, "Well, I'm coming to London. I'm coming to Radlett on Sunday." And I went, "That's perfect for me." So I turned up before, I think he was coaching the Kent, was it the Kent women, I think, were playing at Radlett. But yeah, again, put up the thing. And it was a great experience. And it's just great to, as you probably can guess, I love talking to people or talking at people. I haven't decided which one it is. So it was just nice to meet up with these people again, these players again, and just chat and do the picture. The only guy that I sent, I can think of, that I sent the photo to, I thought, well, I wonder what Ashley Giles will think of this picture. So I thought, I'll just send it to him. And he came back and said, "Oh, well, I like that. You captured something." I don't know. He said, listed 3 things you've captured: my kind of seriousness and blah, blah, blah. And a couple of weeks later, I went to a book launch, Dean Wilson's wonderful book on Sid Lawrence. And I saw a guy there, and I said, "Oh, I just missed you. Apparently you were talking to Ashley Giles the day I turned up to take his picture." And he said, "Oh, yeah, we've got Ashley Giles' book cover here. And yeah, we're thinking of using this picture on the cover." I went, "Well, that's the photo I took of Ashley." But he said, "Yeah, Ashley sent it." I went, "Well, there's a kind of conversation to be had. You don't just and this is for a project I'm doing at the moment." And then I thought, well, if Ashley likes the photo enough to stick it on the cover of his book, that's a compliment. So let's get on and get. And eventually we came to an agreement that the first offer was like, "We'll give you a credit and a copy of the book," which didn't really fly with me. So we have moved that on to a more professional basis of money will be coming my way. But that's lovely that, there's the Ashley Giles cover, and full cover is the picture that I took back in the first week of June.
That's terrific that it happened so quickly as well, and it'll appear on a book that's out pretty soon, I'm pretty sure.
It's already out. It's already out, Adam.
Right.
Yeah, July 28th or something it came out.
A couple of others I was interested in before we move to the other work you've been doing this year. It's actually to do with the aging process. I don't think he'd mind me saying this. Like, Michael Vaughan's a young bloke. He's sort of, what's Vaughan now, 50 odd, give or take? He might be.
He's not quite 50, I don't think.
Not quite 50. Let's call him 48.
Yes, I'd say 48, but I could be wrong.
Let's call him 48, but he's quite a young 48, isn't he? The way he dresses, the way he carries himself, the physicality of Michael Vaughan, the fact that he's always out doing something. He is a young 48 as opposed to others who might look a lot older than their age or behave a lot older than their age. And I mean that as a compliment to Michael. Like, he's that kind of personality. But he actually looks his age in this photograph, I think, personally. I think he looks like and I'm not being ageist in saying that, I don't think. I just think that in this photo, he looks like Michael Vaughan, 48-year-old man. He looks august almost with the way that his chin and his neck sit, especially. I wonder how you felt about that photograph and how it presents Michael in this sense compared to the personality that we're so conditioned to seeing on social media or on telly.
I didn't give it a lot of thought. I was just capturing images of what people looked like on that day,
Yep.
and I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, do they look old? How old do they look? Do they look better than this person? It didn't even enter my head. I
Yep.
just wanted to capture a simple image, and it's not up to me to go, oh, they look old, or they're not doing well, or they look great. Apart from, I've said
The
about
aforementioned
Simon Jones
Simon.
looking great, but I don't have to do that. I don't have to think about it. And it was interesting when it did, as you say, go in the Telegraph, to read the comments underneath, and a lot of them were to do with, oh, he doesn't look good, or he. And I was thinking, seriously, this is how you spend your time. He's
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about whether people look good for their age or not. The only one I was worried about was how good I looked, because I thought during the when I got to and that's the 11th person to photograph, which was Ian Bell, and again, but by the end of it, I was like, right, I really need to force myself on these people. So Andrew Strauss got a call the week after the Ruth Strauss Day at Lord's during the Test match, and he picked up the phone. I said, Andrew, I'm really desperate to get this project over the line now. I need to photograph you. And he went, I have been really busy. And I think I said, well, I know I said, yeah, I know you've been busy. I saw you were at Wimbledon, but I need to do it. And he said, well, tomorrow, for example, he said, I'm leaving the house at 8 o'clock. And I said, fine, I'll be there at 7:30. And that's rude, I know. And I have forced myself on him. And I said, it'll take 2 minutes. And I went there. Andrew's lovely.
Mm.
And, cooperated, put the black T-shirt on, sat in front of the thing. But he did say, as I was about to drive out, he did say, yeah, that did take more than 2 minutes. That was more like 9. But so he got me back a little bit. But yes, I was going on to say Ian Bell, he had his 12-year-old son, Joseph, with him. So he was training for the Legends series just recently that was in Birmingham. So I said, I'll come up, and he's good as gold. So he did the picture, and I said, I'll tell you what, Ian, before we pack up, why don't you do a picture of me? Because I thought, I've negotiated with the Telegraph that they've got to use a picture of me, because it's like a promotion. I've put a lot of work into it. I think the least I can have is a kind of picture byline with it. So I said, Ian, you're going to take a photo of me. Joseph, 12-year-old, your hair and makeup. So if anything's amiss, you jump in and go, no, we need to move that there, or you have a facelift or whatever it is. So I got Ian Bell to photograph me,
Oh.
which I was quite happy. So when you say about aging and how people might look a bit, I don't care. I want my one. So I'm going to be very careful picking out the best picture of me that day. But you asked about how many I took. I probably took something like 70 pictures of each person, and maybe did the thing of smile, not smile. Maybe I said tilt your head down a little bit. But apart from that, there wasn't any direction at all. But I do want, in the future, if I do other projects, I've actually reached out to who I think is a fantastic portrait photographer who I don't know. And this week I just rang up out the blue, and I hate this because I get this a lot of people saying, "Oh, can I come to the cricket with you? I want to be a cricket photographer. I'd like to come." I said, "Well, you can't come to a Test match day, England versus India, and I do try and help people, but I was in the different sphere of ringing up someone and say, yeah, I want to come and watch your work. I want to get better at portraits. So, and this guy didn't know what to make of me, obviously, but he was lovely, and I'm hoping that happens in the next couple of months. But I haven't got skills as a portrait photographer, but the skill I did have was knowing these people and being able to say, can you do this for me? And can you sit there and look at the camera? And I tried to have I used the same camera, I used the same lens at the same focal length, like about 112 millimeter, which is a vast improvement on the 1981 series, where if I look back at them, I think they're not nearly as good. So I'm still evolving as a photographer. I want to get better. I want to get better today than I was yesterday, improve on yesterday. But yeah, about 80 shots of each one. They didn't have the same, none of them, I think, said, a couple of them said, can you send it to me, I think, but none of them were kind of saying, can you send it to me so I can check that it's not dog shit.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that the just to clarify what I said before about Vaughan, I didn't mean it in a they look good for his age or otherwise. It was more my observation that like there's an art to what you've done here. I know you're kind of being self-deprecating about your portrait skills relative to others who do it full time, but like all of these do tell a story in their own way, and I suppose that's the magic of the portrait, isn't it? That when you're up close to someone, it's like the interview. I think sometimes, occasionally, people underestimate the importance of interviews, the craft of interviews, and listening to what people say. We're
Yeah.
so conditioned to sound bites and 30-second clips and whatever else. When you give people the space to talk, and we try and do that on this podcast, there's kind of a craft in that, I hope. And
Well,
similarly with this,
no, I
when you
think you're
give
right.
people a chance to express themselves and be just a little bit vulnerable, because remember, you're the guy with the camera, not them. They're not controlling the camera. We're so conditioned to taking photos of ourselves and seeing, I don't know, 20 photos and picking the best one for Instagram. Different vibe, this. And I think that the photo of Michael is actually a brilliant encapsulation of the captain, of the leader. He looks like, if you looked at these 12 photos, you would say that guy's the captain. And that's just something about the way he carries himself.
Well, in the grid that I'm at, and you also, I've just remembered, you also asked about the process in the kind of the cropping and the presenting them. I had a brilliant idea after I finished the 12, which was to approach a fantastic art director stroke designer that I know, Nigel Davis, who used to work for the Cricketer magazine. It was called the Wisden Cricketer for a while. It was called Wisden Cricket Monthly 20 years ago, and now there's a different Wisden Cricket Monthly. But I approached Nigel, who is a fantastic designer and page is, when I used to get a big spread in the magazine, say the Cricketer, you keep that because you go, Nigel's worked on that and it looks fantastic. And so a lot of respect for him. And I asked him, can I send you the 12 images that I've selected? So he didn't have like 5 to choose from. I said, this is Andrew Strauss, this is Ian Bell, this is Grant Jones. And he did phenomenal. He said, I'm going to do it in this kind of style. So he probably added, I'm going to use the word grittiness to it. But he took what was and I am self-deprecating in. He took what was a photo and turned it into something really special. And I'm so grateful to Nigel for getting involved in this. And that was the best idea I had, was to get Nigel Davis involved.
I mentioned at the start of the interview that you've described the Test series between India and England, or England and India rather, as one of the best you've shot. You compared it favourably to 2005, and the vantage point that you have, and the experience you get to have intimately shooting these guys every day. That really does mean something. You've sent me your 5 favourite photos of the summer, which was a really lovely thing to do. I thought we'd go through them. They're actually not all of the series. One of them is from the World Test Championship final. You did what? So the 5 England-India, the England-Zimbabwe, and the World Test Championship. So a sample of 7 matches. But maybe we'll start with the first in the sequence, which is Temba Bavuma holding the World Test Championship mace and holding his young child wearing his green South African playing cap. It's a beautiful shot. Talk us through why.
I haven't got it in front of me, but I know the picture. And I know I sent it to you. Yeah, that was a big shock to me that South Africa won that Test final. And it was just lovely that it's a difficult thing because at the end of the match, it's an ICC event. There's different rules. So you've got some photographers are allowed, on the field with the players. And some photographers, like myself, have to stay behind the boundary. So it was a difficult thing. And it was one of those times where you think, right, I've just got to give this a whole lap and hopefully something's going to work really nicely. And there was a moment, that probably a better moment, where I think Temba Bavuma went down on his knees and kind of called his son over, and that nearly worked. The light wasn't great; it was kind of shadow from the grandstand, so that was near. But I quite like this one where he's carrying him with the mace, so it's all encapsulated quite neatly in one frame. You've got the winning captain, the mace, and the the next generation type thing, which is a lovely thing. And it just reminds me of a photo that I took years ago at golf. It must have been like we can look this up, but it's something like 1991. Actually, probably 1990. It doesn't matter, does it? That's me and being like anal about what year it is. Ian Baker Finch won the Open,
91.
and he wore a fantastic pink shirt, which was and I was shooting in colour. It must have been early days of Daily Telegraph colour, and he picked up his daughter, and his daughter's kind of staring at him adoringly, and he must be holding the beautiful trophy that is the Open Golf Trophy, wearing this pink shirt, and it was front page of the paper the next day, possibly in black and white. I can't remember, but that's just now reminded me of that picture, and that here I am 35 years on taking a similar picture. But just to finish the Ian Baker Finch story, early days of Twitter, I saw his daughter was on there, and I got in touch and saying, "Oh, I've got a photo you might like." So sent that over, probably 34 years after I'd taken it. But the other thing about, and I should remember her name, but I don't. The other thing about that Open is it's very famous because Ian held his daughter as he was interviewed, and they must have asked she was probably 1 year old, or a question, held the microphone out towards her, and she thought it was an ice cream and tried to lick it. So that's probably on YouTube, but it reminds me of that. But that seems a long time ago, that World Test Championship final. I can't remember. I'm a bit worried about my memory because I'm starting to forget about recent things, and I can't remember everything about, because I've got a great memory. I've got a great memory for things 30 years ago, but that final, I've done so much cricket, I can't really remember what exactly happened every day.
I think that's a function of, I find that happening with me. When you're doing tests back to back to back, I was looking back at some stuff from 2023, and I'm like, I'd completely forgotten or had discounted how good a series 23 was, owing to the fact that it all happened in such a condensed way. Well, I think 5 tests in 5.5 weeks and a World Test final on the front, like it was this year. The Bavuma pick, though, and I'm sure it's the case with the Ian Baker Finch pick in 91, the idea of having these pictures from moments of triumph with young children. You only have your children little for a very short time in your life. I mean, Temba Bavuma will have that photo probably forever. Like, that'll mean,
he's got
that. Well, I mean, whether it's this photo, when these, just to finish the point, these athletes who have these photographs of them at moments of triumph with little kids, they will go down as some of the most cherished memories of their careers. And you're the one who's brought that to life in some way. Like, that must be a really rewarding part of the job.
Well, it is. And I've thought of another example of in 2009, when Australia won a test at Headingley very early on in the day. It feels like it was about 12:30. They polished it off. And I was with my great friend and doyen of cricket photography, Patrick Egar. I was standing next to him at the other end of Headingley. For some reason, I was at the kind of rugby stand end. And he went, "Oh, look, Ricky Ponting's walking across the field towards, family and friends." And look, we've got a celebrity walked in.
Oh, is that PCR Tufnell? G'day, Tuffers.
Commentating today?
Well, I might be commentating. Thank you, fella. I'm in the middle of a podcast. Oh, you might get mentioned. Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
That's all right. If anyone's going to interrupt me, I want it to be Phil Tufnell, one of my great heroes. You owe me some money.
All the part of the colour. Hello, Tuffers. See you around the traps, mate.
I'll finish up. I'll be gone in a couple of minutes. Stop laughing. Right, sorry about that.
That's okay.
I was going to say Ricky Ponting, and he walked, and Patrick went, "You like that kind of stuff, don't you?" So I raced over with a 70 to 200. Ricky came and got his daughter from Ricky's wife, and took her back onto the field about 10 years, and put her on his knee, and they started just having a great time together, as if there's no one else in the world that matters. And it just for a split second, it worked. It was, I'm going to say it, it was close to the perfect picture of that moment of father and daughter, and no one else mattered. And it was on like the front of a lot of papers the next day. and double page spread in the Sun and what have you. It got a massive run. But the nicest thing was I got a big print made and gave it to Ricky at the time, or during the Oval Test afterwards, and he said, "Yeah, it's in my study. It's been on the wall in my study ever since." So that makes me feel good that some of the work that I've done is bringing pleasure to, and I feel indebted to the subjects because the photo doesn't exist without them. So whether it's a posed up shot like these portraits, or it's an action picture, or it's a picture after a game or something, it doesn't exist without them. So they deserve to have some ownership of it. So that's a love. I'm very pleased to know that this photograph is in Ricky Ponting's study, wherever he lives now, in Tasmania or Victoria. I think he's moved to Melbourne, but I could be
he
wrong.
has. Yeah. His daughter Emmy, it would have been as well. Yeah, that's really well summed up, and I think that a lot of people will identify with that answer about those precious moments with children. One that's about as far away from the action as you can get. You've picked out two, which I love. It's 4 men queuing in various MCC regalia. 4 of them wearing the egg and bacon ties. One of them, a gentleman wearing the stripy jacket and the hat as well, and got their supplies for the day in their little carry bags by the looks of things. One reading a newspaper. What about this picture tickled you? How did it come to pass that you were taking it, first of all? Were they aware that you were taking the photo of them? Doesn't look like they were. But then what made you realise, oh, gee, this will stick out? A lot of people shared this on social media at the time.
I normally, for a Lord's test, I like to get to the first day early and do the walk up and down the members' line outside and see if there's anything. I mean, the number of the egg and bacon jackets that you see these days is far less than you used to. But yeah, first day of that must be the India test. I did that, and I realized that there was potential in these 4 guys that have lined up. But to get it, I had to walk halfway across I'm going to call it a pedestrian crossing, into the street. So I am in the middle of the street, but should be safe from being run over because there's a bit of a concrete island. But I'm basically in the road, and I was trying to get lower, and I didn't kind of appreciate at the time how close to perfect it was. The wall, like the brick wall, is lovely in that spot, nice and dark, and what else was good? And the light was good. It was even across them. But all I remember thinking at the time was, get lower, you bugger. And I was thinking of actually lying on the roads to get this picture. And I just remember thinking, this looks good. I'd put the camera on a RAW setting, which I only ever do if I think this is bloody good. Let's make this the best we can get it. I probably put my camera on RAW like 0.2% of the time. But I remember taking this, and the brick wall kind of is a little bit messy just to the left of the image. So that's why it's a very tight crop next to, the guy on the left and the guy on the right. But I am super, super happy with that picture. And it's easily in my top 4 pictures I've ever taken, I think.
Wow. When you consider the like hundreds of thousands of frames that's in your millions, right? Whatever it is, that's on you kind of, that's in your nearly on the podium. And I wonder, have any of the 4 men who are photographed here been in touch and asked for it, or just passed on acknowledgement of seeing it?
No, but a steward I walked past at Lord's in the last month said, "Oh, I love that picture you got of my husband." So she said, I said, "Oh, which one is he?" And she said, "The one that looks grumpy."
On the far left.
I think it's the far left, but yeah. Yep. So that was quite nice to hear. I am super happy with that image.
And these days, part of it, right, is that these photos go viral. Another one that, and by viral, I mean it's shared widely on the internet, whether it's credited to you or otherwise, it's kind of out of your control to a certain extent. But I'm sure that frustrates you, but I digress. The photograph of Rishabh Pant backflipping met that criteria. I've seen this many times on various platforms, and it's your picture. I know a lot of people would have got a frame like this, low to the ground, but nevertheless, it's a picture of yours, and it has his eyes are shut in the backflip, and his hands are off the ground, his feet are off the ground. So he's about to land, but his eyes are shut, which I think adds to it. And, we know Rishabh as the entertainer. This sums it up so beautifully.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that the position I took that photo from, there's about 6 photographers within 15 yards. So it's amazing how, just the guy next to you has got a completely different. I mean, I think from memory, I've cropped that and kept the stumps in it. The fast
Yep.
stumps are in the frame, and that kind of adds to it. But the thing about the cameras at the moment, which some are taking like 30, 40 frames a second, there's no excuse for not getting the pictures these days. I mean, compared to, go back to Patrick Eager, who I had lunch
Yep.
with yesterday, when he had you had to have it bang on. You can be a bad photographer now and still produce the goods with the cameras that are out there, with the autofocus. I mean, I haven't got the very latest stuff, but the Canon camera has a eye thing, so it will keep the eye in focus if people are running towards you or something. You can't miss. So that's the good news for a photographer starting now, is that you can't muck it up. The bad news is there's no money in it. Yeah? So feel free. You're going to have a great selection of pictures, but you're not going to make any money doing it. So you've got to have the passion for it if you want to do it. And a couple of people do.
Yeah, the Patrick Eager, I mean, the Christian Ryan book that he wrote about Patrick's shooting of 1975 summer was a beauty for many reasons, but one of them's the description of how much work went into making sure that you're in the right place, right time with film, and it being a whole different process to what it is now, and having the nous to know to where to put yourself. And of course, your career started, much of your career was done in film as well. And I suppose if you've got the core competency of knowing where you need to be, how you need to be. I remember you and I had a conversation some years ago now about being in the right spot for a Joe Root century when you sat kind of beneath his family and they looked towards, well, he looked towards them, and you were perfectly positioned to capture the emotion on his face. That's 30 plus years of experience, right? Knowing where to be when something that's related to the game itself could come to benefit you too in your career.
Yeah. Well, it's just touching on Patrick. I mean, Patrick was an absolute pioneer because he was using like radio frequencies to set off a second camera. No one else was doing that. He had to talk to kind of I think it was guys that were into flying miniature planes and that to get the technology. So let's be serious. The work he did was phenomenal. Doing stuff like that. And now people just turn up, I'll buy a remote, I'll bolt that to there, and I've got another 4,000 frames to go through at the end of the day. But completely different game now than it was 50 years ago. Completely. But yeah, you can tell. So I'm just going to, while I'm talking about Patrick, I'm just going to put a little plug in for a new thing I've started with my daughter. Which is called Number One Photo. Sorry if I can take this off on a tangent.
Do it.
So I've decided that, especially these days, when you mentioned, Instagram, you've got thousands of pictures here and people are posting that. I want to celebrate great photographers and great photography. So with Emily, I've started this thing called numberonephoto.com, where we approach a photographer and we say, what's your favorite photo that you've ever taken and why? And can you write about it? And it's gone live, and I'll say it, www.number1, the integer, photo.com. And Patrick's doing one at the moment for me. I've said your homework is you've got to write about this, Patrick. But the first guy I got was a photographer called Chris Smith, who was an absolute legend, probably one of the best photographers UK's ever produced. And he worked for the Sunday Times for many years as their sports photographer. And I just want to, there's nothing in it for me, but I just want to celebrate great photos. And really happily, so does my daughter. So working with her on this, and we put up another great picture yesterday by a guy called Jeff Moore, which is a beautiful picture of Naomi Campbell behind about to go on stage for a catwalk show. But I want to celebrate not just cricket photos, not just sports photos, but portraits, landscapes, street photography. So I'm finding that very rewarding as well, doing that.
I'm sure you are. The idea of picking one, right? Like that's a really nice task to set. I'm sure if you were asked to pick one photo, you said that the picture you took at Lord's might sit in your top 4, but if you had to zero it into one, that's a whole different ball game, isn't it? I mean, maybe I'll put that to you just quickly. I mean, what is one? I mean, we've gone through your best ever pictures, well, the most noteworthy pictures in your book a few years ago, but have you thought that through yourself? What would be number one for Philip Brown?
If I had to, and I think it's important that you are able to do that. It's on the front of the colours of cricket. It's the kind of sunset scene I took in Colombo of 2 lads playing there. The Lord's one from this year is close. It's probably, I said it's in the top 4. It might be in the top 2.
Okay.
But I think it's important to be able to do that. And interestingly, Chris Smith straight away said, my favourite photo is this. So he knew straight away. A lot of people say, well, I'm not sure which one it'd be type thing.
I'm mindful you've got a game to shoot today, so we're going to rattle through the last couple of picks and you can go and do your actual day job. The 4th photo you sent me was of Ben Stokes appealing, Shubman Gill at the other end looking rather guilty. I'm not sure whether this was given out. I'm sure you can tell me. But talk us through why Ben's... Right, it's out, is it?
That is out. That's out.
Dean Wilson, that is out. So can you tell me why this photo... let's just go to Ben Stokes, because obviously you shoot Ben a lot. What is it about Ben that makes him so shootable?
Ooh, that's a good question. What is it? It's his passion. It's that he's always giving 110%. That's what it is. He's fantastic to photograph. The best guys ever to photograph. Definitely Flintoff, Shane Warne, Kevin Peterson and Ben Stokes. Top 4.
Right.
5th probably Virat Kohli. And they've all got, none of them are ever taking a breather or not trying. They're all giving their all the time. Ben, I think about this, thought about this recently. It's going to be the saddest day ever when Ben Stokes isn't playing cricket, because the camera loves him. And that picture, I could have picked a couple of his appeals during the summer. The light was a bit better there. I'm pretty sure that's the Old Trafford one that I've sent you. But yeah, if Ben Stokes is playing, I'm a happier person, because he just makes pictures. And yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Speaking of passion, there's perhaps, along with Stokes, no one more passionate in global cricket at the moment than Mohammad Siraj. You must have hundreds of photos of Siraj with his face just lit up. And, well, here it's a reverse angle. The last day of the series, that stunning 58 minutes at the Oval, which ended with Siraj bending back the off stump of Gus Atkinson, who was trying to slog sweep him, understandably, in the context of the game. Chris Wokes at the non-striker's end with his arm in the sling. Umpire Dharmasena is in the shot, and this is not about me at all, but I've got the reverse angle of this on my camera, where at exactly the same moment where the bail's elevated, and I've got the Siraj face and you've got the Atkinson face, but I guess I'm one of those.
How weird is that we've basically got, and kind of the angle's similar, like slightly elevated.
I don't think. I think they. Yeah, if you put them next to each other, they would be. But I'm one of these guys who, understandably, photographers probably hate, because I get to sit in nice spots with a nice camera and I'm a dilettante. But you're obviously
not all of them hate you. Not all of them, Adam.
Yeah, well,
there's a couple of exceptions.
Yeah, well, I'm sure
no,
that
you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
I'm sure I'll get overlooked for the long list of the Wisdom Comp this year for a bit of snow falling or something. But yeah, this photo of Siraj hitting the off stump. Can you talk me through, from your perspective? Like, I think you talked on Instagram about the knowing when you've got that fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second bang on in such a way that everything is in the right frame. I mean, that's literally the case here with the bail removing before Siraj probably even knows himself that he's won the Test match for India.
It's a little bit. One thing I'm going to say is I've taken over someone's office, and I need to finish in 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
I'm getting messages like, "Can you get?"
That's fine. We'll finish it up.
I'm very happy with that picture, because it's the first time I've ever used a longer lens on the remote. And as I was getting out the car for that last, I think it was 53 minutes of play we had that day, I thought, well, I've got 300 ml here. Why don't we just try that and come in? And the quality's going to be better if something happens. If England win and they celebrate just away from the wicket, from the pitch, I call it, it's not going to work because it'll be out of frame. But I'm going to just go out, maybe this will work. So I used a longer lens, the 300 rather than a 180, and there was a little delay on it. So the ball is in the frame. I don't know if it's in the frame that I sent you or not. It probably is. Is the wicket keeper in it?
No, this is an edited cropped one, so the ball's out of this.
So the ball's cropped out, and there was a little delay. But what I thought was, even if I had gone a bit earlier, Siraj isn't going to be making that beautiful shape because he makes that photo in that he's off the ground and his legs right out, and he's making a gorgeous shape. So I was absolutely over the moon with that picture because it's neat. You've got the stump going. You can tell what's happening without it being explained to you. But the Siraj shape makes it for me. And I also like the fact that poor old Chris Wokes is in there with his busted shoulder. And it would be absolutely perfect if Chris Wokes was just 2 inches to his right and we could see the whole thing. But that's me being a perfectionist. But yeah, happy with that. That was on the back page of the Times. That was a double page spread in the Sun. And that was my last day working for Popper Photo. So I'm now completely freelance, which I'm happy about. And that was a nice way to go out. And I had 7, 8 very happy years working with Bob Thomas at Popper Photo. So I'd like to thank him for all those times. And I just look forward to the future.
And I want to thank you. I know you've got to go, so we'll wrap it up there. Outstanding piece in the Telegraph with the 12 portraits. It was to wide acclaim, rightly so, and the photographs that you took this year, which were just outstanding. There's a reason why you're so loved, and I'm sure that's come through in the last hour of our conversation. You'll be there at Wormsley with us on Monday as well. This will be going out around the time of the app going live, I suspect. So it might be too late to use you as a selling point, but you'll be there giving people the chance to take photos with you, which will be pretty cool, and playing for Zero Ducks against the final word, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. Phil Brown, you're an absolute gem. Thank you so much for taking the time, and you better get out of that BBC box.
Thank you, Adam. And I'm just going to say, we will beat you on Monday. I know you're quite confident that the final word will do the business. You've got no chance. I had a net with Gareth Batty yesterday, and I'm looking pretty damn good, if I can say so. But what a pleasure, what a privilege to talk to you, mate. I love it every time I do it. And yeah, thank you so much.